I wanted to build every possible Fast and Furious car in GTA Online, and I realized we could create almost 90 builds, so I decided to share them with you all. First, let's take a look at all the builds from the 2001, The Fast and the Furious movie. Our first car is Brian O'Connor's 1995 Mitsubishi Eclipse. It's the Penumbra FF, and it has a pretty accurate livery, along with similar front bumper, slightly similar skirts, matching roof scoop, and similar rear bumper modification. With the carbon hood and lime green neon kit, and if it had an accurate spoiler option, this would become an exact replica of the real car. Next up, we have Dominic Toretto's 1993 Mazda RX7. You can build it using the Anis ZR350, and this car also has a similar livery, along with slightly similar front bumper and a skirt option. It also has a similar spoiler and rear bumper option, and we can also add red neon kit to match the real car, but overall, it's not as accurate as the previous one. In the next spot, we have Leon's 1995 Nissan Skyline R33 GTR. It was built using the Anis Elegy Retro Custom, and we have a pretty accurate livery, along with similar bumpers, wheels, and skirt options with brand names on it. We also have a similar spoiler option for this build, making it another exact replica of the movie car. Moving on to the next spot, we have Danny Yamato's 1993 Honda Civic Coupe. You can build it using the Kanjo SJ, and it has matching livery, but we don't have matching modifications for this build. We got a similar front bumper and wheels, but the skirts and spoiler are not even close. However, it's not a bad build. Next up, we have Hector's 1992 Honda Civic EG hatchback. It was built using the Blista Kanjo. However, the Kanjo is based on the Civic EK9, and it doesn't have similar modification, aside from the wheels and a slightly similar spoiler option. In the next spot, we have Brian O'Connor's 1994 Toyota Supra Mark IV. It was built using the Jester Classic, and I think this is the most famous Fast and Furious build in GTA Online. We have the exact same hood option, similar side skirts, customizable seat colors, and matching rear bumper for this build. However, the spoiler and front bumper aren't entirely accurate, and there's no option to remove the roof, but still I think it's a great build. Moving on to the next spot, we have the Heist Cruise 1993 Honda Civic EJ1. It was also built using the Kanjo SJ, and we have a similar front bumper and slightly similar skirt option for this build, but the rear bumper and spoiler options are not even close, and the available neon color is also slightly off. I love this build, but I think Rockstar should have added more accurate modifications for this car. Next up, we have Dominic Toretto's 1970 Dodge Charger RT. It was built using the Beater Dukes, but you can also build it using the standard version. We have similar wheels and a supercharger option, but it adds extra hood catches that the real car doesn't have. Also, the overall body design, including the grille, is way off, and I really wish Rockstar would give us a proper 69 Dodge Charger in the future. In the next spot, we have Dominic Toretto's 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. It was built using the Declasse Tulip. We have a similar livery for this build, and the overall body design is also close, but this car has 4 doors, while the real car is a 2-door variant. We can also build Brian O'Connor's Ford F150 SVT Lightning using the Vapid Firebolt ASP. Rockstar has even added a similar livery for this vehicle. Let's move on to the cars from the Too Fast Too Furious movie. First, we have Brian O'Connor's 1999 Nissan Skyline R34 GTR. You can build it using the Elegy Retro Custom, but it's not as accurate as some of the builds we saw earlier in the video. We have a similar livery, but we don't have similar options for the front bumper, wheels, skirts, or the rear bumper. However, there is a similar spoiler option for this build. And also, the Elegy Retro Custom is not entirely based on the R34. It's a mix of the R32, R33, and R34. Next up, we have Slapjack's 1993 Toyota Supra Mark IV. It's another modified Jester Classic, and we have a similar livery for this, but we don't have similar front bumper and hood options. However, there are similar wheel and skirt options available. Unfortunately, we also don't have similar rear bumper and spoiler options for this build. Moving on to the next spot, we have Suki's Honda S2000. It was built using the Dinka RT 3000, and we have a slightly similar livery, front bumper, and wheels for this build. We can also change the seat color to match the movie car, but unfortunately, it also changes the interior color. We also have a similar spoiler option. However, the rear bumper isn't entirely accurate, but it's still a decent match. In the next spot, we have Brian O'Connor's 2002 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 7. The livery for this build is not very accurate, but we have a similar front bumper and hood option. There's also a similar spoiler option, but the rear bumper and skirts are not similar. The worst part about this build is that the movie car is a 4-door, while the Sultan RS is a 2-door. Here we have Roman Pierce's 2003 Mitsubishi Eclipse Spider GTS. It was built using the Penumbra FF, and we have a similar livery, front bumper, and slightly similar skirts. However, we don't have similar rear bumper or spoiler option for this build. The most disappointing thing is that we don't have an option to remove the roof for this car. We can also build Darden's 1970 Dodge Challenger RT using the Gauntlet Classic. We have a slightly similar livery for this build. Let's check out all the builds from the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift movie. First, we have Sean's 1970 Chevy Monte Carlo. We can build it with the Vamos, and it looks so close to the movie car, but we don't have the option to make the hood color black. Next up, we have Drift King's Nissan Fairlady 350Z. We can build it using the Anis Euros. And we have similar modifications, including the livery, hood option, similar wheels, fender option, and a spoiler for this build. We can also build Morimoto's 350Z using the Euros. We have similar modifications for this one as well, but it's not as accurate as DK's car. In the next spot, we have Han's 1997 Mazda RX7. We can build it using the Banshee 900R, but you could argue it's not an RX7, and that's true. Unfortunately, Rockstar didn't add modifications for the ZR 350 to match Han's car. I've seen some YouTubers build Han's Nissan Silvia S15 Spec S, also known as Mona Lisa, using the Anis Remus, but it looks nothing like the real car. We can also build Sean's 2006 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 9 using the Sultan RS, but we run into the same issue we had with Brian's Evo in this build. Next up, we have Sean's 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback. It's built using the Dominator GTT, and it's really close to the movie car. Let's move on to the 2009 Fast and Furious movie. First, we have Dom's 1987 Buick Grand National. We can build it using the Faction Custom, and it looks really close to the real car. Next up, we have Brian's 2002 R34 GTR. It's built using the Elegy Retro Custom. We have similar wheels, a front bumper, and a slightly similar hood option for this build. However, the rest of the modifications and overall build are not very accurate, just like the R34 from the second movie. In the next spot, we have Dom's 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. You can build it using the Sabre Turbo. You could also use the Tulip, but this build looks much closer to the real car. Next up, we have Giselle's 2007 Porsche Cayman S, and it was built using the Pfister Growler. Here we have the 1973 F-Bomb Chevy Camaro RSZ28 used by Dom and Braga's crew members, and it was built using the Imponti Nightshade. You can also build Phoenix's 1972 Ford Gran Torino Sport using the Arbiter GT, but it's only available in the GTA Online Expanded and Enhanced Edition. Let's check out all possible builds in Fast 5. First, we have Brian's 1971 Nissan Skyline GTR KPGC10. You can build it using the Volker Warrener. The wheels, spoiler, and overall look are similar, but the in-game version is a 4-door, while the real car is a 2-door. We can also recreate 2 cars from the train scene. The first is the 1972 De Tomaso Pantera, driven by Vince, which can be built using the Lampadati Viseris. The second is the Ford GT40, driven by Mia, which can be recreated using the Vapid Bullet. Next, we have Brian's Porsche 996 GT3 RS, which you can build using the Comet S2. The livery for this build is quite similar, but the S2 is based on the 992, not the 996. Here we have Giselle's Nissan 370Z. You can build it using the Anis Euros. However, it would have been much better if there was a matching livery for this car. We can also build a 2010 Dodge Charger SRT8, used in the final robbery scene using the Buffalo, but we don't have similar modifications, including the metal reinforcement in the back. Next up, we have Brian's 2010 Nissan GTR R35. It's built using the Elegy RH8, though I wish we had a better R35 model in GTA Online. We can also build Dom's 2009 Dodge Challenger SRT8 using the Gauntlet Hellfire. We don't have similar modifications for this build, but it does feature a livery that matches the rear fender design of the real car, but it's hard to see because the livery blends with the paint color. We can also see these 2 cars in the opening scene of Fast and Furious 6. Now, let's move on to that movie. First, we have Brian's Ford Escort Mark I, which you can build using the Vapid Retinue. We have similar wheels for this build, but the livery isn't entirely accurate. Still, I think it's a great build. Next up, we have Dom's Dodge Charger Daytona. We can build it using the Gauntlet Classic Custom, and this car looks very similar to the real one and has similar modifications. In the next spot, we have Roman's 1969 Ford Mustang Fastback. It was built using the Dominator GTT, and it's one of my favorite builds in the game. We have slightly similar wheels and livery for this build, and there's also an option to change the interior color to match the movie car. We can also build a 2012 Dodge Charger SRT8 that Dom and Han drive in the plane chase scene, and this was built using the Buffalo S. Let's check out all possible builds from the Furious 7 movie. First, we have Deckard Shaw's 2015 Jaguar F-Type, which you can build using the Ocelot links. Next up, we have Letty's 1970 Plymouth Barracuda. It's built using the Gauntlet Classic, and we have similar modifications for this build, including similar livery, wheels, and spoiler. In the next spot, we have Shaw's Maserati Ghibli, and you can build it using the Lampadati Cinquemila. Next up, we have Letty's 2011 Dodge Challenger SRT, built using the Gauntlet Hellfire. We have similar modifications for this build, including similar livery, a bumper option with front metal reinforcement, and a spoiler option. We can build 4 cars from the Abu Dhabi scene. The first one is Letty's Dodge Viper, which is built using the Banshee GTS. Next, we have Roman's 2011 Bugatti Veyron, which can be built using the Truffaut. In the third spot, we have Dom's 2014 Dodge Charger, which can be built using the Buffalo S. And we can also build the skyscraper scene Lykan Hypersport using the Pegassi Reaper. Next up, we have Brian's 2012 Nissan R35 GTR, built using the Elegy RH8. And here we have Brian's 1995 Toyota Supra Mark IV, built using the Jester Classic. And it's one of my favorite cars from the entire Fast and Furious movie series. Let's check out all the builds from the Fate of the Furious movie. First, we have Dom's 1961 Chevrolet Impala, which can be built using the Voodoo Custom. Next up, we have Fernando's 1950 Chevy Fleetline. You can build it using the Classique Broadway, and you can make the version used in the racing scene by removing parts, including the doors and hood of the car. I've also seen the Ford Fairlane Crown Victoria build, done using the Tornado. In the next spot, we have the Dodge Challenger SRT Demons, driven by Dom's crew, built using the Gauntlet Hellfire. Next up, we have Letty's 1966 Corvette C2 Stingray, and it was built using the Coquette Classic. In the next spot, we have 2016 Mercedes AMG GTS. It's built using the Schlagen GT. Next up, we have Rome's 2010 Bentley Continental GT, which was built using the Cognoscenti 55. You can also build Little Nobody's 2017 Subaru BRZ using the Karin S95. Here we have Shaw's 2016 Jaguar F-Type, built using the Ocelot links. Next up, we have Rome's Lamborghini Murcielago, built using the Pegassi Infernus. And you can also build Letty's Local Motors Rally Fighter using the Coil Brawler. Let's move on to the F9 movie. First, we have Dom's 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat Widebody, and it's built using the Buffalo STX, but the livery color doesn't match with the real car. Next up, we have Roman's 2018 Acura NSX, which is built using the Dinka Jester. You can also build Jacob's 2012 Toyota GT86 using the Karin S95. In the next spot, we have Otto's Jaguar XE SV Project 8, and it's built using the Ocelot Jugular. Next up, we have Letty's 1970 Chevy Nova SS, which you can build using the De Classe Vamos. We have similar modifications for this build, including similar wheels and a matching livery. And we can also build Han's 2020 Toyota Supra using the Jester RR. Let's check out all possible builds from the Fast X movie. First, we have Rome's 2003 Lamborghini Gallardo, and it's built using the Pegassi Vaca. Next up, we have Han's 1972 Alfa Romeo 2000 GT, and it's the Michele GT, but we don't have a similar livery for this build. In the next spot, we have Dom's 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat. You can build it using the Buffalo STX, and I really wish we had a similar hood option for this car. We can also build the modified Harley-Davidson Pan America using the Diabolus Custom. Next up, we have Isabel's 1975 Datsun 240Z, and it was built using the Karin 190Z. Here we also have Diogo's Porsche 911 GT3 RS, built using the Comet S2, and we can build Dante's 1966 Chevrolet Impala using the De Classe Impaler. Next up, we have Shaw's 2019 McLaren Senna, and it's the Progen Emerus. Finally, we have Dante's 1966 Ford Fairlane, and you can build it using the Albany Buccaneer. That's it for this video. Please leave a like, comment on what you think about the video, and consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future. See you guys in the next one.